In the far reaches of the galaxy, where stars burned like embers and civilizations rose and fell like waves, there existed a planet called Zorith. It was a world ruled by the iron fist of an alien tyrant known as Emperor Kryos. His empire spanned countless systems, and his cruelty was legendary. Among his many slaves was a young woman named Lira, who had been taken from her home planet as a child. She had known nothing but servitude and fear for as long as she could remember. Lira was different from the other slaves. She had a spark of defiance in her eyes, a quiet strength that refused to be extinguished. She dreamed of freedom, though she knew it was a dangerous dream. Kryos had a particular interest in her, not because of her beauty, though she was undeniably striking, but because of her resilience. He enjoyed breaking strong spirits, and Lira's was the strongest he had encountered. One fateful day, Kryos decided to visit a distant colony on the edge of his empire. He brought Lira with him, as he often did, to serve as his personal attendant. The colony was a bleak, desolate place, but it was here that Lira's life would change forever. On the same colony, in a small, unremarkable town, lived a man named Ethan. He was as ordinary as they came, a mechanic by trade, with a kind heart and a simple life. He had no grand ambitions, no desire for power or wealth. All he wanted was to live peacefully, fixing machines and helping his neighbors. Ethan had heard stories of the tyrant Kryos, but they seemed like distant legends, tales of a world far removed from his own. That changed the day Kryos arrived. Ethan was working in his shop when he heard the commotion. The streets were filled with soldiers, their armor gleaming under the pale sun. People whispered in fear, and Ethan felt a knot of dread tighten in his stomach. He stepped outside to see what was happening and froze when he saw the procession. At the center of it all was Kryos, a towering figure with cold, calculating eyes. Beside him walked Lira, her head bowed but her posture defiant. Ethan couldn't look away from her. There was something about her, something that called to him, though he couldn't explain why. As the procession passed by, their eyes met for the briefest of moments. In that instant, Ethan felt a connection, as if he had known her all his life. He didn't understand it, but he knew he had to help her. That night, Ethan couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about Lira, about the pain he had seen in her eyes. He knew it was madness to even consider defying Kryos, but he couldn't shake the feeling that he had to do something. So, against all reason, he began to plan. The next day, Ethan discreetly followed Kryos and his entourage, observing their routines. He noticed that Lira was often left alone in the evenings, guarded but not closely watched. It was a small window of opportunity, but it was enough. Under the cover of darkness, Ethan made his move. He sneaked past the guards, his heart pounding in his chest, and found Lira in a small, dimly lit room. She looked up in surprise when he entered, her eyes wide with fear and hope. "Who are you?" she whispered. "My name's Ethan," he replied, keeping his voice low. "I'm here to help you." Lira hesitated. She had been betrayed before, and trust did not come easily. But something in Ethan's eyes told her he was different. She nodded, and together they slipped out into the night. The escape was fraught with danger. Kryos' soldiers were everywhere, and the colony was a maze of narrow streets and dark alleys. But Ethan knew the town well, and he led Lira through hidden paths and secret passages. They moved quickly and quietly, their hearts racing with every step. As they neared the edge of town, they were spotted. A shout rang out, and suddenly the night was alive with the sound of pursuit. Ethan grabbed Lira's hand, and they ran, their breaths coming in ragged gasps. They ducked into an abandoned building, hiding in the shadows as soldiers rushed past. "We can't stop," Ethan said, his voice urgent. "We have to keep moving." Lira nodded, her determination matching his. They pressed on, driven by the hope of freedom. Days turned into weeks as they traveled across the colony, always staying one step ahead of Kryos's forces. Along the way, Ethan and Lira grew closer. They shared their stories, their dreams, and their fears. Lira told Ethan about her life as a slave, about the horrors she had endured. Ethan listened, his heart breaking for her. He promised her that she would never have to face such pain again. In turn, Ethan shared his own life with Lira. He told her about his simple joys, his love for fixing things, his desire to live a quiet life. Lira found solace in his words, in the kindness and warmth he radiated. For the first time in her life, she felt safe. Eventually, they reached the edge of the colony, where a small, rickety spaceship awaited them. It was old and barely functional, but it was their only chance to escape. Ethan worked tirelessly to repair it, his hands moving with practiced ease. Lira watched him in awe, marveling at his skill and determination. When the ship was finally ready, they climbed aboard and took off, leaving the colony and Kryos behind. As they soared through the stars, Lira felt a sense of freedom she had never known. She looked at Ethan, her heart swelling with gratitude and something more. "Thank you," she said softly, "for everything." Ethan smiled, his eyes filled with warmth. "You don't have to thank me. I couldn't leave you there." They found a new home on a distant planet, far from Kryos's reach. It was a peaceful place with rolling hills and clear blue skies. Ethan built a small house, and together they started a new life. Lira learned to live without fear, to embrace the simple joys of freedom. She and Ethan grew closer, their bond deepening with each passing day. One evening, as they sat together under the stars, Ethan took Lira's hand in his. "I know this isn't the life you're used to," he said, "but I want you to know that I'll always be here for you, no matter what." Lira looked at him, her eyes shining with tears. "This is the life I've always wanted," she said. "With you." In time they married, their love a testament to the power of hope and resilience. Lira, once a slave to an alien tyrant, became the wife of a regular guy, a man who had shown her that even in the darkest of times there is light. And Ethan, who had lived a simple life, found his greatest joy in the woman who had taught him the true meaning of courage. Together, they built a future filled with love and happiness, a future that neither of them had ever dared to dream of. And as they looked out at the stars, they knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, they would face them together.